Hello! Welcome to this LinguaLeap video about American English pronunciation. Today, we're going to talk about a very important sound in English, the schwa. Part 1. If you understand this sound, you will understand more English and be able to speak more fluidly and naturally in English. In this video, we will explain the schwa and practice with lots of examples. Before we begin, remember that there are many different correct accents and variations of English. This video will teach my pronunciation, but that's not the same as every American pronunciation. It's not necessary to speak like me in order to speak English well. If you can communicate, that's the most important thing. Okay, let's begin. The schwa is the most common sound in English. But what sound is it? First, let's talk a little about English pronunciation in general. Rule number 1 about English pronunciation. Words are not always pronounced like they are written. Many other languages like Spanish, Russian, Korean are not like that. In those languages, you read what you write. In Spanish, for example, which is a language I speak, there are 5 vowels. This letter always makes the sound ah, represented in the International Phonetic Alphabet with this symbol. This letter always makes the sound etc. With 5 vowels, there are 5 vowel sounds. Pronunciation and spelling match. English is not like that. English has the same 5 vowels, A, E, I, O, U, and sometimes Y. But they produce up to 20 different sounds, depending on the word. The letter A can make the sound A, 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 I, and more. Even native English speakers don't know how to pronounce a word when we read it for the first time. That's why it's necessary to hear a word to know how to pronounce it. English speakers and learners also need to practice with the sounds of English to pronounce English, especially the most common sound, the schwa. Look at this word in English. How do you pronounce it? Pan, with the vowel sound eh. How about this word? How do you pronounce it? Pen, with the vowel sound eh. How is this word pronounced? Pin, with the vowel sound I. What about this? Pawn, with the vowel sound ah. This isn't a complete word in English, but that is how we pronounce this combination of letters. And this word? Pun, with the vowel sound How would we pronounce this word if it were a real word in English? It would be like pn, pn. Is there a vowel sound between the P and the N? Yes, because you have to open your mouth a little to connect those two sounds. It's not a strong sound. It's an almost invisible sound, but it is a sound. This quiet, almost invisible sound is the most common sound in English, the schwa. Let's look at some examples. Where is the schwa in this word? Student, student. Here it is, because most Americans don't say student We say student, didn't, almost like the vowel is not there. The U makes a strong vowel sound, ooh, but the syllable didn't has an almost invisible sound, the schwa, student. Where's the schwa? Teacher, teacher. It's here. Chur, chur, teacher. Almost like the E weren't there. This vowel sound is strong. E, teacher. But the last syllable is produced with that quiet, common sound, the schwa. Where's the schwa in this word? Tomorrow, tomorrow. For me, mar has a strong ah. O is also strong. So the schwa is here. T, t. I don't say tomorrow. I say tomorrow. One more example. Where's the schwa? Mountain. It's here. Tn. I don't say mountain. I ignore the A and I and say mountain. Or sometimes mountain, mountain. As you can see from these examples, the schwa appears in the American pronunciations of many English words. Actually, the schwa appears in almost 12% of all English words, more than any other sound in English. Let's look at more examples of words with the schwa sound. Repeat the pronunciations. Around, around. Problem, problem. Freedom, freedom. Survive, survive. Remember that this E is silent, which is not the same as a schwa sound. Grandmother, grandmother. Computer, computer has two schwas. I don't say computer, but computer. Even McDonald's has a schwa. I don't say McDonald's. I say McDonald's. McDonald's. Since there are so many words in English with the schwa sound, how can you know if a word has a schwa in its pronunciation? Like I said earlier, in English, it's impossible to read a word and know exactly how to pronounce it, even for a native speaker. Any vowel or combination of vowels can be produced as a schwa. So there isn't a rule that dictates exactly where a schwa will always be. If you look up a word in a dictionary, the pronunciation will be there, and you can look for the schwa symbol. But one very useful guideline is that a schwa rarely appears in the stressed syllable of a word, the loudest part. That's because the schwa sound is very quiet and almost invisible, and it's very difficult to put stress on an almost invisible sound. But the best way to learn how to pronounce any word is always to hear someone else say it and copy their pronunciation, whether in person, on TV, or on the internet. Remember, to pronounce English words, don't read the letters. Listen to the pronunciation. Many English teachers don't teach the schwa, even native speaker teachers, because native speakers do this automatically. But for understanding and fluidity in English, I think the schwa is one of the most important elements to practice. Like everything in life, you need time, patience, and effort to get comfortable with this sound. Thanks for watching. I hope this video was helpful. Please leave questions, comments, and suggestions below. Keep practicing, and see you next time.